My Lords, I congratulate my noble friend, Lord Roper, on calling this debate, and it is, as ever, always a pleasure to follow the Right Reverend Prelate, who brings a depth of knowledge and experience to this whole subject. It is right that the government be held to account for the seemingly reckless way in which they are dealing with the farming industry and rural communities. As the Right Reverend Prelate said, home to nearly a quarter of our population. And the other issue I wish to raise in this debate is the danger to our food security at this unprecedented moment for global trade. My Lords, the Labour manifesto promised to champion British farming. Instead, from the farmers' point of view and the point of view of rural communities, they seem to have launched a series of crippling blows on farming, starting with the budget changes in inheritance tax for farmers. That is going to cripple British farming and prevent investment and growth in rural communities. Now, the noble Lord Davis raised a really interesting point here about assets and their taxation. I must say on this side of the House, and I certainly believe that the so-called assets of land, machinery and livestock are not an indication of farmers' wealth, but the essential means for them to earn a living. You can't have a farmer without him owning or renting land. They care for 70% of our countryside, grow 60% of our food. This has already been mentioned in the debate. I want to say I don't want to blame the Minister. I never do. She and I know where the real culprit lies, but the effect for farming and the rural community is the same. And the latest bombshell was dropped on the 11th of March this year with 30 minutes notice, announcing that the Sustainable Farming Initiative was closed to new applications at a moment when many farmers were still preparing their applications, having been assured by DEFRA that if there was to be any change in the procedure, 6 weeks' notice would be given. Another broken commitment. Now, the SFI was launched in 2017. It had all-party support. Its purpose was to help farmers transition from straight subsidies to grants for introducing more sustainable methods. In 2022, my Lords, Daniel Zeichner MP, then Shadow Minister for Agriculture, castigated the then government for dragging its feet, demanded a commitment to long-term funding for it, and a guarantee that goalposts would not be moved. My Lords, Daniel Zeichner MP is now the Minister for Agriculture in the other place, and I'm not sure what he is saying now. Has the government scrapped the SFI? Does it intend to? If so, what is to replace it? I do hope that the noble Baroness, the Minister, will be able to enlighten us on that, but in particular, how the government plans to support our agricultural productivity and resilience when climate change, environmental insecurity, geopolitical events, and now in particular tariffs, make the whole issue of our security, our food security, a major concern. On the day after Liberation Day, will she be able to explain to noble lords how her government proposes to deal with tariffs if, as seems likely, they will affect agriculture? And was Nigel Farage MP telling us something when he said last week that he welcomed the import of chlorinated chicken? And if the government is planning for such eventualities, why, by their taxation and other policies already raised by noble lords, why are they reducing farm incomes and prosperity and growth in our rural communities? They should be supporting the vital stability of our food security and not diminishing it. I do hope the noble lady, the Minister, can reassure the House. She always listens carefully. She takes note of the argument. Dare I wish her a happy Easter?
My Lords, it's a particular pleasure to follow on from the noble Baroness Shephard and to very much agree with her about what she just said about food security. And also I'd like to congratulate my noble friend Lord Roborough for securing this debate. And I think underpinning what Baroness Shephard has just said about the need for food security is the need, I think, to see a clearer strategy for our countryside, for our farmers and our rural communities. And we've seen none of that so far since this government took office. And we desperately need that right now because, as the Chancellor, in one of the few sensible things she said recently, rightly said last week, the world has changed. We cannot be certain that we will always be able to import all the food that we need. We cannot be certain that we will not see a further period of geopolitical instability. And so, therefore, the need to protect, in particular, the land in this country which is our most productive is of paramount importance. And we are right now trying to grow food, generate our electricity, protect our nature and build our houses all in the same land spaces. And we cannot just do it in a haphazard way. It's got to be done carefully, strategically and thoughtfully. And so I think the first thing I would say to the Minister is, please can she and her colleagues in government work this through in a much more careful way than has happened up to now. There are some very practical examples. We should not, for example, be building solar farms on our most productive agricultural land. Right. There is very clearly a place for solar power in this country, and there's a lot of land that is of second or third degree usefulness, where there is a genuine opportunity to do more with it. But we should not be using our most productive land for this purpose. Right. Likewise on housing. There is a need to build more housing, but the easy option for housing development is always just to build new houses on green fields. It's by far the easiest option for developers, but we shouldn't be taking the easy option. There are plenty of avenues in this country for us to pursue for smarter urban development. It is a matter of great regret to me that this government doesn't seem to believe in urban development as a core part of meeting the housing needs of the future. The targets for our big city areas have not risen in anything like the same way as the rural areas, as the areas on the fringes of our cities, and the areas of greenbelt land. And I saw this in my former constituency, where there is a real opportunity to build on brownfield land, to densify the developments already there, and not just to build on the green spaces. And then we have also got the very important task of restoring our biodiversity. It is something that I believe the current government wants, as the last government wanted. And we've got to be smart about how we do that as well. And one of the disappointments of the government's approach to our farmers, I think the previous government was right to try, I don't think it got the detail right, but right to try and empower our farmers to do more to protect the countryside of which they are stewards. I don't see the way in which the current government is approaching things like the SFI as reflecting an understanding of the role that farmers can play. There really has got to be a more holistic, a more strategic, and more thoughtful approach to how all of this happens. And there's one point in particular I wanted to make to the Minister, which I think drives to the heart of the question of how planning goes forward in our rural areas, whether it is about housing, whether it is about onshore wind. I'm not a great fan of onshore wind, but the government's taken the decision to pursue onshore wind, and how all of that fits with the challenge of restoring biodiversity. And that is the issue about corridors for nature. What we have to understand is that whether it's wildlife on the ground or birds in the air, putting development in the wrong places has a materially negative impact on the ability of nature to recover. And so the final point I'd like to make to the Minister is, as she works with her colleagues in MHCLG and across government, and as they set guidance for local authorities, and as they put in place all of the different measures they're looking to do to drive growth in energy, in housing, it is of paramount importance that they also reflect the realities of local nature recovery. If we do these things in the wrong